This morning I want to cover an issue that I've faced a lot with working on teams, and there seems to be some major just misconceptions about tracking issues, especially in SQL Server, when you have data sources and you have multiple tables. So I'm calling this tracking miscounts or inaccurate results across multiple tables. And quite frankly, this is an issue that comes up a lot, and it takes a huge amount of time, and there's a huge amount of misconceptions. So this is one of those videos that nobody Googles and nobody looks for and nobody tries to find on YouTube, but it comes up a lot, so this is one of those very practical things that you will face multiple times. So I'm going to illustrate it. I'm not going to use any code today because there's no need for it, but I'm going to illustrate it with some of my poor quality paint images. And what I'm going to do here is we have a data set which has some tables. So this is a data set, and let's say that we have an employee named John, and John is working on this data set. Okay, and then we have a data set over here, and the employee working on this data set's name is Bob. Okay, and so let's see, this right here is supposed to be red. So just imagine that's all red and no yellow. Okay, and so Bob's working on his data set, and John's working on his data set, and Bob's source of data comes from this table, and John's source from his data come from this table. Now, underlying both of these tables may be the same set of files, right? We may have, let's just use a hypothetical example. We may have stock market data in this from files that are going to this table and stock market data that are coming to this table. But how is this table being built and how is this table being built? Okay, and here's why I bring that up. Okay, so, and this has happened so many times. I'll be working with a colleague, I'll have a data set, and this is the outcome of the data set. And so the colleague will be like, well, your data set's inaccurate because your data set doesn't match Bob's data set. And I say, okay, so let's look at how I'm building these data. So do you see any errors? No, I don't see any errors. Okay, so then how is Bob's data set, why would my data set be inaccurate versus Bob's data set? And, there will be always claims, well, you don't understand, Bob is getting his data set from, from your source, so they're trying to claim that he's getting it from here. And it's like, no, let's go and let's look at that process. And what always happens is one of these tables is joining, oftentimes it's a left join or something, joining to some other table. So it may be hitting this table, but it's also hitting this table too. Okay? Now, if this entire data set is being populated from this table, and this data set is populated from this table, but also this table, depending on the joins, especially if it's a left join, left outer join for sure, you may have major mismatches. Okay? And so this happened where it was like 16 hours of debugging, and I kept saying, I guarantee you that if you look at this person's process, they're pulling it from another table. No, they're getting it all from this table. I promise you, I've done this enough to know that if these counts are not matching, there is something else in a process that you're not familiar with. And one of the reasons why I like to say, from a structure and from a design perspective, and if you're management and you're watching this, because management might be a little more concerned, it's a good idea, in my belief, is to sit there and anytime you're debugging something, especially if you have a team and two people are building something different, and in SQL Server, okay, I want to know every single table that is used in that query. Okay, I want to know every single table. How is that table being populated? So what you're looking for is the sources. And in fact, a lot of new people in SQL Server, I always know, because they're getting counts and they're seeing mismatches, but they don't understand the underlying logic, which is the reason why your counts are different is because of the sources. You have to go back to the sources. Are these sources the same? And what you'll find time and time again is there's always some rogue table or rogue file that the source is different. So in this example over here, the idea is that this data set is being populated maybe by extra files and this one's not, if it was the case. Or these tables don't match because when we're importing data, this has a more strict where clause than this one. But the way we identify that is going to the source. So the data source are how you track data discrepancies. And I know for some of you, who, especially who are senior level, you're like, well, that should be pretty obvious. But you would not believe how many people I've worked with, senior level developers, who, I mean, they can get the counts from here to here, but it's, you know immediately if the counts aren't matching, then the source is not the same. So I know if this count and this count don't match, when they're grabbing data from this table, then in the where clause when it's grabbing data, so insert select star, is going to either be different there. If it's not different there, then that means that there's some other source of data for this set right here. Okay, so that will save you lots of time in general, and it will help work through the confusion. But the way you're going to track issues like that when you don't have matches, and I understand it seems all simple. We were dealing with, terabytes of data. It seems all simple, but you have to make, especially if you have developers who are building, you have multiple developers building a process, the source must be the same. And if you're getting discrepancies, then look at that source. Look at those sources, like, is it actually this table or is it this table? And you'll almost always find that there's another table being used. Oh, that's just a schema lookup table or something. I love it when it's like that. Or what is it, a star schema table? And I'm like, right, and this has values that these other don't have. And of course, they're always doing a left join. That's my all-time other favorite one. Is there's so many misconceptions of a left join and an inner join. It's hilarious. But it's like a left join is going to look for things that match and don't match. So you may end up returning a lot of values you don't want. You would not believe how many times I've been asked to debug a query for a client. A client will hire me or bring me on, and the only issue was a left join. And I just kind of sit there and ask them, so why did you use a left join there? Oh, I read something on the internet that you need to use left joins instead of inner joins. And don't read that. It almost always is going to be an inner join. Almost always. And in fact, when in doubt, just use an inner join. And I say that based on tons of experience where that has been the problem so many times that has confused people. It's not what you think it is. An inner join almost always is what you're looking for, not a left join. A left join is very useful, don't get me wrong, but more than likely that's what you're looking for. So when you're tracking miscounts across or inaccurate results across multiple tables, look at the source. And for those of you who are junior or mid-level, this is how you can really, really jump a level, because one of the things that I would say really demarcates a senior level developer or a senior level SQL Server developer or administrator from a junior or mid-level is that, the senior level person immediately goes to the source. And, I was working with this individual, again, who kept saying, well, there was a discrepancy here. And I said, okay, I need to know how these tables are populated. But 16 hours later, it was like, oh, you're right. It turns out this one table. Looking at a data set that doesn't match another data set, when you actually have mapped out how each table is populated, and it's good to draw an image of it sometimes, then you will immediately know, okay, here's the problem, because this table is being populated